time. A million black shovels at the same time. A million black shovels at the same time. 4, 3, 2, 1, game time. Harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. Trying to get the farmers market popping like the Carter, growing harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. Trying to get the farmers market popping like the Carter, growing harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. Trying to get the farmers market popping like the Carter, growing harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. Trying to get the farmers market popping like the cool. Control the game like 4-5, so ahead of the curve I can't go live. These woke jokers, they so jive. I'm deep up in it, I nosedive. Pimp a swim, I'm wavy. Cowabunga, I'm surfing. Kundalini on 6G, my ancestors been working. 40 years, I'm grateful. Bad knees still hooping. Wait lit to be hateful, man, I'm most tired of recruiting. Percentage high when I'm shooting. Add cloth to my tribe. That Turtle Island I keep along since Pangea been loud. Don't speak no fables. Just bring receipts to the table. Came to show this hand. Can't get caught up slipping like Abel. What's understood, stay silent. You ain't even gotta say it. All I know is that daddy's up and somebody gon' pay. Harder, 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 and harder, and harder. Trying to get that farmers market popping like the Carter, growing harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. Trying to get that farmers market popping like the Carter, growing harder, harder and harder and harder and harder. Trying to get that farmers market popping like the Carter, growing harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. Trying to get that farmers market popping like the Carter. A million black shovels at the same time. A million black shovels at the same time. A million black shovels at the same time. 4, 3, 2, 1.
B1AGers, good morning. We're back again with B1AG. Again, 1 million black shovels, 4321. 1 million black shovels, 4321. That's our campaign. Here at B1AG, we're trying to have 1 million people, 1 million melanated peoples around the world plant something at the same time. April 3rd, 2021, 4321. That's the countdown. So what's happening? We're at B1AG, where we focus on Black agriculture, agriculture production, education, marketing, nutrition, and economics for the Black family, for the Black community. Because here at B1AG, we're B1 first. And today, we're still in Black History Month. And we'd like to focus on one of our great elders, Frederick Douglass. He was a world-renowned abolitionist. And he was also a slave who was able to buy his freedom. But the interesting thing, he actually wrote 3 autobiographies. And in one of his biographies, he said that food was a weapon of control used during slavery. And we're going to look at this topic today just to see how food was used as a weapon of control during slavery. And we also often have to look back into the past to find answers for what we need for the present as well as moving forward to the future. So we're going to dive deep in this. We're going to break off some literal bread today. And we're also going to show you how Frederick Douglass broke bread, literally and metaphorically. So, Farmer Brown, I'm going to turn it over to you. What say ye about your food being used as a weapon of control? You're muted.
Even if they never drop the reparations, stay focused on the promised land preparation, plenty soil, good seed, proper irrigation, planting seeds for a liberated Black nation. I mean, before there was a such thing as PI, first I just like to say peace to the family. It's been an interesting last 2 days, fam. I don't know if people noticed yesterday the Federal Reserve crashed for a few hours. And then this article came about, like you said, this is Black History Month. So this is typically where we're going to get a little bit more information about our elders and ancestors. But yeah, it makes sense. Before there was a dollar, before there was a bean, whatever form of currency or trade, the most valuable thing in anybody's civilization would be your food. If I don't have food, what would I need weapons for? What am I defending? Without food, we don't get to the next day. And so it makes all the sense in the world that it can be used as a method of control. When we think about this, the history here in what we call North America and what we call down south, and just how slaves were spread out through the South, we can see the impacts of that food being used as a weapon of war today when we think about these pre-existing conditions we have. There was a time the stock of human beings that we come from didn't eat. There was no such thing as a cow. If you're somebody from what we called North America, Amexem, Turtle Island, there were no cows as we know today. There were bison. If you're from South America, there's a different type of livestock, four stomach ruminant that lives in that area. Same as Africa, same as Europe. Same way with pigs as well. So you have wild hogs here, you have pigs from Europe, sheep, lamb, goats. It's the same way. You have different animals that exist in different climates. And so when we started mixing, going around the world, trading, meeting other cultures, hey, you got this animal, I like the way this tastes, I got these over here. So over time, and this goes into our plant and animal genetics, we have the food system we have today. And so when we rewind back to this time that we call slavery, it was obviously used as a means of control. In North America, this was prime farmland. To anybody coming from somewhere else, this was some of the best land you would ever find. And so to make use of this, I need to farm it. And this is another, I guess, if you're a student of history, you understand the concept of just monocropping is going to come back to bite you. And monocropping is when you just have this large field of one thing. So when we think about the South, we're thinking sugar cane, cotton. Obviously, a slave can't eat cotton. Obviously, you don't want to have a diet on sugar cane. And so, okay, I'm working these hundreds of acres of plants I can't really consume. So my diet is dependent on whoever's bringing this in. This is something that's brought in. Some of the slaves, you hear narratives that they had their own gardens. They were able to sustenance farm, meaning, okay, I'm not really selling what I'm growing, but I'm eating it. But once again, you're a slave. If you're spending the majority of your day working on somebody else's crop, or, doing the work, the day-to-day work of the plantation, how much time do you have into really putting together a formidable, healthy food system for yourself? I think about hearing stories from my mother. And so she's in her mid-70s, came up in the deep South. And I remember she'd tell me the stories about the food they ate, like, molasses, biscuits, salt meat, pork. It tastes good. I've tasted some of these things, the smoked bacon. But when you take a scientific when you look at it from a healthy standpoint, these were horrible foods. And this is why we have the obesity. This is why we have the high cholesterol. This is why we're prone to other diseases that didn't exist before we took this diet on. And so, where the slavers in those early times, were they aware that, hey, over the next 400 years, the food that we're feeding these slaves now, their progeny is going to be in their genes to be predispositioned to be unhealthy. Did they know that, or was that an unintended consequence? When you think about the impact of food being used as a weapon, okay, y'all can grow only so many things in y'all's little garden over here on y'all's plantation, y'all slave quarters. But if y'all really want to eat, you're going to have to do this work. And if you don't do this work, I'm just not going to bring it. I'm not going to sign your slave papers for you to go, to the next plantation over and get it. And so, it's nothing to laugh about, but when you think about the similarities of what we have going on today, and I'm pretty sure we'll dig a little deeper into the impact of the Federal Reserve crashing, February 24th, 2021. The Federal Reserve started in 1914. So you're going to tell me this long later it suddenly crashes and nobody's talking about it. We think about what we were discussing about Texas, all of these unforeseen, unpredictable occurrences that really happen. They happen in real time. It's not a conspiracy that this place that we call Texas was covered in ice, and everything that people there knew was normal suddenly changed immediately. Suddenly we found ourselves in a system where, hey, here's a $10,000 energy bill you're going to have to pay. Last week at this time, this wasn't in my mind. Now this week it is. And I think we need to take the same approach of seriousness. This isn't a subject to dance around. I'm not going to say in my modest opinion, this is just fact. Our food security isn't an issue to dance around. It should be forefront of any discussion we're having right now. But it's absolutely a weapon of control. And to say that it was one then and is not used as one now, I think you're living in a fantasy land.
Yeah, I would like to share with our B1AG audience just a little excerpt of Frederick Douglass coming from his first memoir, The Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, and it describes the way he ate. Our food was coarse cornmeal boiled. This was called mush. It was put in a large wooden tray or trough and set down upon the ground. The children were then called like so many pigs, and like so many pigs, they would come and devour the mush, some with oyster shells, others with pieces of shingle, some with naked hands, and none with spoons. He that ate the fastest got the most. He that was strongest secured the best place, and few left the trough satisfied. Now, can you imagine that? It's throwing us scraps, to eat actual mush. That's a very minimal nutritional value, very minimal satisfaction when you eat that. No one left the trough satisfied. Now, I look at this as I can compare that to these stimulus checks. These stimulus checks are just like this mush that they're handing to us in this trough. Okay, thank you, because I need it, but $600, $1,200 is not gonna get me out of these tens and thousands of dollars in debt that I am in, or $600, $1,200, $1,400 is not gonna do much for this $10,000 electric bill that I have now because my electricity is privatized and they're overcharging. So we really have to look at the way oppression has been used on us in the past, compared to how it is used on us now. And we need to put ourselves in a better position so we won't be able to be oppressed in the future. What you got to think? What you got to say about that, Farm Brown?
And the Constitution, right? The whole of the thing starts with what the initial piece of it was. So in the original Constitution, the contract of what we're going to do with this space of those who are classified as in power right now is we were 3/5 of a human being. This is for tax purposes, meaning you're livestock. I'm gonna count you as something else because there's a benefit for me. But other than that, I see you as livestock. I say that to say I remember one of my epiphanies about life. I was working at the research farm when I was doing my undergrad. It was about 2 years, and this is my first time ever feeding cows. I mean, this was like a whole new experience for me. And then we had about 30 head at this time. And so these are huge animals. I'm not that big of a guy, so I'm like, oh, wow. But I noticed the control I had over these animals with these buckets of feed. I ride all through the field in the gator, and, they follow me through the field. I have this little bucket of feed, and I'm knowing, okay, one of y'all could easily take this down. But in my head, I'm knowing I'm about to hit this trough, and we have maybe 2 or 3 buckets. I'm about to hit this trough, and this is all y'all going to get for today. I know me as the farm tech assistant, I'm not going to come back and do this till tomorrow morning. And so whatever is about to go in this trough is all you're going to get. And I remember I thought it was the oddest thing because, I'm used to dealing with animals on the Discovery Channel, so to speak. And so I'm assuming, the natural instinct of an animal is to protect its offspring. Like, before anything, I got to make sure these kids eat. But when you take that feed, and I don't, for people that's never don't understand what feed is. So basically, when you're feeding livestock, they can graze on grass for so much. But when you want to fatten them, when you want to keep them healthy, you have feed. And that almost reminds me of like a chocolate chip cookie mix or something. It has a real strong, sweet smell, but it has different minerals and nutrients in it to help the growth process. And you can also give medicine with it. So long story short, it tastes unnatural. Like a cow's not going to eat nothing like this in nature. Like in nature, all you got is the grass and whatever vegetation is around you. So saying that to say I can control you with this bucket. You're a 1,500-pound animal that could easily just, swing your head and knock me on the other side of this field. But with this small bucket, I control you into 29 other cows in this area. And so I remember watching when they feed. When it came to that feed, I'm talking about the ones with horns, they use them. A lot of them, we cut the horns off, so it was only 2 that had their horns. But they would knock the calves out of the way, and so we had to put a calf feeder. And what a calf feeder is small enough to where the calves can get into it, but the heifers and the bulls can't. And in your mind, you're thinking, this is counter nature. Why aren't y'all looking out for the young ones first? But I remember the adult cows will go over to the calf feeder, trying to knock the calves out of the way, getting whatever feed that was knocked over. We're saying that to say it was cutthroat. We talk about the Federal Reserve and we talk about the cold winter that Biden had spoken about. And so I remember one time, this is one of the scariest moments of my life, especially working out there with them animals. We had to rotate feeding on the farm. So I was out there by myself. This was on a weekend and it was snow. It was like 2-3 inches of snow. So I had to take the gator, and the feed trough was frozen for one. It was frozen. And so not the feed trough, but the silo. And so, you get your feed out of the silo, but it was stuck. And so I had to, a whole lot of work. It's cold, it's snowing, and I'm trying to get this from being jammed. That's kind of equivalent to the Federal Reserve. This is like the feed silo for the 390 million head of livestock that we call American citizens. But fast forward, and so I had skipped the day. I assumed, I'm not going to go up there today because it's snowing, but I still had to go up the next day because it kept snowing. So long story short, and the old farmer Hank told, you don't ever want to miss a day feeding them. You don't want to miss a day. And so, like I said, I skipped the day. I didn't tell them that I didn't go the day before. And so I went up there and all the cows came to the fence, once I gotten back to the field, and I'm in the gator. So normally I could just, they'll stand at a distance. I can open the gator, pull it in, right up to the trough, nothing. But I had skipped the day and it was cold. I want you to put this together. I mean, it's a metaphor, but it's very literal. It's 3/5 of human beings. So it was very cold. I skipped a day of feed, right? I skipped a whole year of stimulus or any sort of economic help during the pandemic, which we'll call the snowstorm. And so I get to that gate, and I mean, they wouldn't let me in. I had never heard cows grunt, and they were visibly angry. And so me saying, hey, get back. Very scary. And I'm knowing, okay, I can't skip another day. I don't feel like a punk and having to call somebody to come get me. Hey, this is my daughter. Kids, don't feed some kids, watch what they do. But so long story short, I had to walk down the fence a little bit with one of the buckets, and I had to throw some feed off to the side to get them off of my path so I could drive the gator in there. Saying to say, organisms get cutthroat when the feed is cut off. And so if you want to look at it from an economic or financial standpoint, feed getting cut off, your main feeder had a jam in it, that has implications. When we're thinking literally about food security, okay, we've seen over the last, 12 months now, how our food insecurity in the B1 community has gone from 1 out of 5 households to 1 out of 4. This is in 12 months. And so we see that things are happening rapidly. Texas has 29 million people. A large percentage of that is the melanated family. And Mexican as well. Just, we'll bring, for the sake of this conversation, we'll bring in people of color because our food security is based on Mexicans growing it. If you're eating anything in America, no matter what color you are, 60 to 70% of it is grown by Mexicans, or what you would classify as Latino or Hispanics. This is who works these jobs right now. And so going back to this concept of, okay, some of these adult cows will knock their own calves out of the way. When it came to this feed, this limited feed, this limited economic stimulus, if I knock my own calf out of the way, what am I going to do to another adult cow that wants this same feed? Because this adult cow in this snow and this proverbial storm, I know I need more food because my body got to generate heat to keep me warm. My nature, cows can't speak English, so they can't trick each other. They go straight to the business. If you can't knock me out of the way, I'm going to get as much out of this trough as possible. And so when we apply this to our community in relation to other communities, I mean, normally on a typical day, these cows on this farm of America get along. Hey, I'm in my space, grazing away, you're in yours. But when we're starting to deal with limited resources, This feed that these people on this gator, they don't even know it's called a gator. They just know these people come, they pour something, and there's something that they like. We've become socialized. When we think about social marketing, we've become socialized to almost be like livestock in North America, to where we operate on feed, whether we want to talk economic or our food system. And so I think when you're talking about Frederick Douglass and being able to identify that back in slavery, I think it definitely lends for a greater conversation of now. How deeply are we indebted now when it comes to food? Because back then our enslaved ancestors had no choice but to grow some of their vegetables. They didn't have a nice apartment they could go to. They didn't have a good enough job. I can go to Whole Foods, I can go Kroger, Publix, Sunflower anytime I want. They didn't have that advantage. Therefore, they had to learn how to produce the food. And so in a situation now where power is going out and all of these unexpected events happen, how prepared are we as a community? In Texas, it didn't, if I'm on a street where my electricity didn't work, I can have 100 stacks in my pocket. What good is that going to do me? Who am I going to call up and pay to turn my electricity on? I can go to the store with 200 stacks in my pocket. If you have nothing to sell me, what good is that going to do me? And so these are real conversations that we need to have yesterday.
And I definitely can relate to you and the cows. I grew up with my grandfather down in South Georgia, and he always had cows. And trust me, when it's feeding time, those cows come running and bucking, and they will knock each other out of the way. They will knock you out of the way. Like my grandfather, he'd always keep a stick, and he was quick to, if they came too close, he'd bust them over the head with that stick. And it's not to be cruel, but it's just that cow will do worse to you. That cow will do worse to you to get to that food. And I want you to think about this, how our audience out there, my B1AGers, when you're hungry, they have all these Snicker commercials about, about people hungry and angry. You get hangry. Think about how you act when you get hungry. Think about how the young ones act when they get hungry. The children, the kids, they start yelling and crying and become uncontrollable. Definitely hunger is a way to control humans, and they know this very well. But as far as Frederick Douglass, he used that hunger in the way they tried to, in the way he seen how they controlled him with hunger to work in his benefit as well, even at a young age. When Frederick Douglass was 8 in Baltimore, he found a way to use hunger to learn how to read. So what he would do was, he had free access to a lot of bread. So he would take pieces of bread and barter pieces of bread to the white neighborhood kids who knew how to read and write. He would give them bread to teach him how to read and write. And this is a quote: "This bread I used to bestow upon the hungry little urchins, who in return would give me that more valuable bread of knowledge," Douglass wrote in the narrative of Frederick Douglass. So he actually used bread to feed the hungry white kids in exchange for knowledge. Now, B1 family, B1AGers, we have to use the knowledge of our ancestors, our elders, in the present to put ourselves in a better position in the future. What kind of bread do we have to barter?
You think about the people of the book. Esau sold his birthright over a bowl of soup. Esau had been out hunting. I'm tired, I'm famished. And what was it? Rebecca had colluded with Jacob. He sold his birthright. And if you ascribe to that story, this is how we have the divide between Christians and Muslims. But the concept is, I'm the firstborn. By nature, there's an inheritance I get that's going to last me a lifetime. But I was so famished after this hunt, I will sell you my birthright. When we think about, when we get into the different, schools of thought about our presence here in North America, what is our relationship to this corporation, this nation, democracy, republic, whatever we're going to call it? What is our relationship? And when we don't take on our agricultural history, we're selling our birthright. We're selling our birthright. If you want to say we started in a garden, some schools of thought say we started as little cells and amphibious beings in the ocean. Who knows? I don't know. But I know we're here. And I know the darker you are, you tend to come from a stock of people that were in warm climate areas where life was more vigorous. And so by nature, that would make sense that this group of people figured out how to produce food first. It's not a braggadocious thing. It's actually shameful that, okay, if we come from this, if this is a possibility, why then are we in a situation today where only 1.4% of us are the primary operators in what feeds the people in the place where we find ourselves living? My religion doesn't matter. My ideology, my political leaning, my sexuality, none of that matters if I can't feed myself. So once again, when we think about Frederick Douglass, how many of us literally, how many of us would it come to? Because I would have never thought to sell bread to learn how to read. But I imagine it was that cutthroat. It was that serious at that time. But he was wise enough to find something of value. And this is the essence of agriculture. This is the essence of how do we reevaluate our relationship with one another to achieve a healthier, more sustainable food security. Just in case things shut down. Just in case the feeding trough, the feeding silo gets stuck, so to speak. You should see my twins right now. They're attacking me for these cookies. They're going crazy. They're going crazy. These are sweet cookies. They're unnatural. They had their fruits this morning. I try to make these cookies a special treat, and they go in. When you think about the value of $1, you know, fiat currency, I hate to get spiritual, but you can't tiptoe around it. The Most High didn't make $1. Dollars didn't come out of the sky. Euro, even if we go digital, it didn't come out of the sky. There was a natural relationship we had with one another and the environment that we're in. There was just a natural relationship. It's not left to debate. You're here. This is what's around you. To survive in this environment, you had to eat. Had to, have to, and will have to. Far after you and I are sitting here. It is my hope when we talk about B1, how do we really focus this conversation around food security? Take emotions out of it. Take conjecture. I mean, it's great to have these conversations to get your wheels turning, but at the end of the day, we need a specific code to get back to our inheritance as stewards of the land. That is a responsibility. That's not something you fight. Hey, I want you to be nice to me. I want you to let me do my job like I've been empowered to do. That's not the fight. The fight is internal when we decide that we want to make this important. Because right now, in my opinion, I feel like a lot of us sound like my son right here that wants this cookie. And guess who holds the purse to what it is you're asking for? Right? Daddy got something else he's doing. Right? I see you're safe. Okay, you don't threaten what daddy's doing. And so when we think about this paternalistic mindset that we call white supremacy, that I'll call the opaque layer, daddy's got something going on right now. I hear you crying. I hear what you're asking for. I know you want your. I'll do a study on how am I going to distribute these cookies to these crying children right here. I know it's almost nap time for y'all. I got a whole nother day of work ahead of me. I got a whole nother plan. But I hold the key to this. And so when we think about our relationship on this place and on this farm that we call North America, are we coming as beggars? My kids, both of them can now walk. They know how to climb. They know how to open every door, right? Like there's really nothing hidden in this house anymore. And it's two of them. There's power in numbers. There's two of them. And I'm making a point. Right now, at this moment, instead of them being mad at me, because I also got these too. You see how I'm using these to keep them to be good while I'm doing something? You have the means within your mind to go in the kitchen right now and open that refrigerator or crawl on the table, or crawl on the counter and get bananas and all these things you want. But you've been socialized to see this paternal hand as this is what the thing I want comes from. That is equivalent to the feeder. That is equivalent to the Federal Reserve. For the sake of what we call ourselves, do we want to be in a position where we're asking somebody to give us something that we have the capability to go and get? Because guess what I can do if I was a mean parent? I could use this food as a control. I want y'all to be good. I don't want y'all to. I actually encourage my kids to turn up. You know, don't tell mama I said that. I want them to turn up, right? But if I want them to be good, I just want to be peaceful, I know how to use food as an incentive. I know how to stretch this out over time for a behavioral change. And we can't be, as above, so below. We can't be so foolish of a people to not think that a very wise multi-billionaire group of people have figured this same dynamic out. If it worked during slavery to keep millions of these people doing this service for us for free, why would I not use a good idea?
Now check this
Why
out.
would I not use something that made this the richest country in the world? Why would I not, from the day I had to tell y'all, okay, slavery's done? Do you think I just forgot about what just worked for a couple hundred years?
But I'm gonna tell you something that's interesting, Farm Brian. How your sons and your daughter, when they want those cookies and they get mad and they start crying and they may get it, they may not. What's interesting is like during slavery, when the slaves were working the plantation, it was illegal. It was actually illegal for them to eat the food that they're picking on the plantation, but they would do it anyway. They resorted to stealing, and in their mind, their moral compass was, okay, you stole me, so me stealing some food, there's of no consequence. However, the consequence was that they got caught stealing food, even if it was just an orange. You can have a whole orange grove, and they can get caught eating one orange. A lot of times that would lead to being flogged, being whipped, severely punished. But there's only so much a person can do or will take when they're hungry. They're gonna eat. We have to eat, and they would resort to stealing food. And we go back to Frederick Douglass, and he was talking about how, like, stealing became a normal way of life. Even if the slave master, they can put up a tar fence around all the oranges in the whole plantation, slaves would risk their life going in there to get something to eat, because they were not going to, hunger will motivate you in a lot of different ways. So Farmer Brown, just continuing the analogy of using your kids and how, they turn up when they're hungry, and now they can go get it.
Father Anderson say when it comes to economics, either it's three levels. Either you're going to work, beg, or steal. Either you're going to work, beg, or steal. In the case with my children, I mean, obviously they can't work, so work would be equivalent to good behavior. Steal would be, okay, I know Dad got these cookies, and I'm gonna just go in there and take them. And beg is what they've. So right now, what she's doing, she's trying to steal my heart. She knows by being cool, she knows the reaction. What Pavlov, positive reinforcement. You're being good. You're letting Dad do what he needs to do, right? Sister Vicky Diller, some people call her butter biscuits. Once again, this was another, since we're talking about the narratives on a plantation, this is where the concept of butter biscuits come from. I will incentivize you. You're not going to get no wealth. I'm not going to give you anything of value, but I'll give you a little bit more food than those people outside on the plantation if you tell me what's going on. Food was used as a weapon. It's not a metaphor. I will give you a few more butter biscuits. And I mean, we say that in a sense of comedy, but this is serious because this same method can be used today. I mean, you think a lot of our young mothers right now are in some trying situations. There was a sister up in Ohio. She was working at Little Caesars, and she got arrested because her 10-year-old and 2-year-old were at the they were staying out at a hotel.
Yeah.
You can't judge that sister, man. She's working with what she's got to work with. And what saddens me as a community, there's enough men. I see them every day. There's enough men around here that need something to do, need something to wake up in the morning and fight for. There's enough women that need to be fought for. No matter how strong they are, no matter how smart they are, we shouldn't have a sister that's getting arrested for. And it goes to this concept to answer what you're saying. Like, technically, she's stealing on a plantation. What I should have enough money to give to a daycare, I don't have. And so while I'm at work trying to earn, I got to keep my kids here. And so when we're dealing with this kind of, we're in a system where she can be arrested for that. That just is what it is, regardless of how we feel about it, until we have something to correct that, because this is just one sister in many. And we see, you know, the administration right now both have track records of locking a lot of people up, male and female, for, you know, violating truancy. Oh, you violated this drug law. You're in a community that has no jobs. Y'all have kids. I know y'all want to eat. The only thing around for you to do is to sell drugs, but I'm going to arrest you for doing that.
Arrested for hunger, struggle crime.
I'm a struggle. I'm going to arrest you for not wanting to struggle. And so, you know, it comes to a point, okay, we can politicize it. We can get angry about it, or we can look at it. Now, how did this country get rich in the first place? Slavery in and of itself, nobody ate slaves. I've heard the stories about them making jackets and shoes out of slave skins, but that wasn't $1 billion industry that made this place rich. It was agriculture. It was agriculture. It was producing products from the land that people around the world found value in. And there were networks that the Malian travelers, the Moorish travelers had figured out centuries before. So once again, when we think about the elders like Booker T. Whatley, everything we need already exists. There's nothing that's going to come out of the sky that's going to suddenly change our outcomes and what this 2050 looks like for us. I'm not a prophet, but I just, what does the object look like coming out of the sky that's going to fix our economic problem? I can see, hey, if y'all can at least feed yourselves, you have a little bit of leverage in your politics, in your economics, in your outcomes for, you know, okay, what are our youth going to do with themselves? This is a technological age where, hey, we see that there's other groups of people that kind of have a monopoly on technology. How many decades would it take for us to level our kids up? It's not to say that ours aren't capable. That's not what I'm saying, but it's the same way with agriculture. Physically, you see who's driving the NFL and NBA, right? And so if we found ourselves in a situation where we had to garden organically, where we can't just make a call. I find myself in a Texas situation where there ain't no phone I can call and get a tractor. I ain't got no bread to rent a tiller to till this garden up. It's going to take muscle and blood, skin and bones, right? Who are the people to do that? That would be your warrior class that is right now playing ball. I'm giving you a little bit extra just to play ball. I don't want you to use your body for nothing else that's producing nothing. Produce some entertainment for me. Produce something to take my mind off of all this stuff I got to go through to keep y'all cows on this farm. I need you to make me feel better about trying to keep y'all cows in place on this farm.
No,
it's not an insult. You know, we all do a dance. I'm on plantation time right now, right? I'm an agent. I'm a county agent. But seriously, you know, what are we doing about just in case there's this nefarious farm plot? I want to liquidate my herd because the market went down and it ain't no more value for this herd no more. And I'm having to pay for feed. My silo is starting to mess up and I found myself surrounded by all of these hungry cows. What is this farmer going to do? He's going to go out and pat all the cows one by one. Cow Angus lives matter. Is that what's going to happen?
Probably not. Now, Frederick
Douglass have a market to sell y'all on, because I mean, y'all already do what I want you to do anyway, so I don't need to sell slaves no more. So I just need to liquidate you. Whatever creative ways I can liquidate these cows. Some of them they actually got ways now you can kill your livestock and till them into the soil. It's like regenerative, but you're not going to do that with 40 million head of livestock.
So Frederick Douglass can point out that how food was used as a weapon of control during slavery. The obvious answer or, you know, solution would be to be able to provide your own food. Therefore, you control your own hunger. You can control refueling yourself. You can control feeding yourself. And that can't be used against you because you have it. You know what I'm saying? If you can feed yourself, nobody can use food to control you. You know what I'm saying? You're not walking around hangry like in these Snicker commercials. You know what I'm saying? Because you have enough sustenance and nutrition to supply the energy you need to make it through the day, to fight through the day, to survive, and not just survive, but if you can provide your own food and sustenance, you will thrive. You know, that's the only way. That's the only way society can thrive. We have to be able to eat and have access to clean water. You know, so you have any final thoughts on this Farmer Brian MC before we get up out of here?
4, 3, 2, 1, game time. I'm a believer that there's no such thing as coincidence. I don't see any event that happens in human activity as isolated. You know, in my little weird world, we're all kind of weirdly connected in some way. And I think this is literally a countdown to what are y'all gonna do. In the Bible, it speaks of let the wheat and the tare grow together, and I'll do the separating. And I just see a grand separation happening right now for all of us. I don't think there's not one human being on this planet right now that is immune. And you're not going to get vaccinated with what's going on right now. Every system that we've become accustomed to, nature doesn't say, no, you have a right to have a grocery store and an AC blowing. Nature doesn't do that. You know, human innovation. And I've appreciated air conditioner. I've appreciated grocery stores. But it comes a point, okay, to have the grocery stores and a lot of the amenities we enjoy, there's a lot of people who are experiencing hell on this planet. What does Neely Fuller say? How do you create justice? The people that need most help get the most constructive help, right? Food. Hey, man, it ain't for me to come build your house. It ain't for me to make sure you're able to turn up and have a good time in life. But if there's enough land out here, there's enough seeds, the least we can do is figure out how we're going to be able to feed one another to get to the next day, to decide what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. People, family, we're decades off. I'm going to just be very blunt with you. We're decades off. I came late in the game, and I realized, okay, if I started today, I learned everything that was told to me, took every bit of advice that was told to me. How long would it take to get to changing this 1.4% participation? You're looking at decades. The optimism is we have time now to make this something that becomes our culture, to where my 2-year-olds, by the time they're 14, no telling what this world is going to look like, at least understand the concept of food systems. Hey, Dad, whether we got digital currency where you can just whistle and suddenly I bought something. Oh, there's no telling where technology is going to go, but we're never going to be so advanced of a species that we just don't need food. And somebody selling you a pill, some fake meat or something like that, I don't think that's sustainable for organic, created, natural beings.
Amen. So I hope y'all enjoy this daily bread today. Now, it's going back to Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass used his bread to learn how to read and write. He bartered bread for knowledge. So I hope that you learn from our daily podcast here at B1AG. You know, we're sharing this daily bread, that you can exchange this daily bread in for knowledge, just like our great elders, such as Frederick Douglass did back in the days. And to end this off, you know, we're going to end this just the same way we do every day. This is our mantra. This is Farmer Brown's motto, you know, because if you really want to know something, you better.
Let's break them chains, family, and learn how to grow something.
All right, this is B1AG. I'm John Hennry 904. This is your boy, Farmer Brian MC, and we're out of here for the day, and we'll see you tomorrow.